I'm going to show you a couple of things about these Thermoking APU generators to look for whenever you're having issues with them. If you ever store load locks on the back of your truck like this, be extra careful about this little valve right here, because if you bump it, you'll snap it off, and then it'll start showing AC codes on your unit on the inside. Another issue that's common with these things is they have a kill switch right down here, right below one of the oil fills, that little on-off switch for servicing. And sometimes a wire will break off the back of this switch and it won't allow anything to run back here, or this switch here itself will go bad. Now, the way you could check this switch is you got to pull the casing, the upper and the lower casing off, and the lower casing just holds on by these two bolts right here normally, and the under edge of it slots in. Anyway, you have to pull this casing off and this upper cover off, and then run a continuity test on this switch. And if you're not getting any good current through that switch, and that switch is bad, and a quick fix for that to get you down, get you till you can get to a service shop, is to take the wires off of this switch, and you could just straight wire through that switch. Anyway, your fuel pump runs through this switch. So if this switch is off, this thing is not going to run, or if this switch isn't working, it's not going to run. Also, you've got another wire that comes off the switch and runs down to your air conditioning compressor clutch. And anyway, your AC clutch runs through that switch as well. And for a while there, we had problems with this generator, and it would work sometimes, sometimes it wouldn't. And I looked down here, and there was a bare spot right up inside that hole on this wire, where the casing on the wire got kind of old and hot and cracked and broke off. And one day it'd run fine, the next day that thing would contact and it'd shut it down because it was grounding out the switch. So what I did was I took some high temperature silicone and I coated that bad spot in that wire, and that fixed that issue. Anyway, the reason why I've got this thing apart today is because I had a shop put a new alternator on this thing, and the alternator is way up underneath here, right here, and it's back behind the oil pan. And they put a new alternator on this thing, and the idiots did not put the lower alternator belt or alternator bracket bolt on here, so there's no bolt at all in that alternator bracket on the bottom end. They just put it on there, tightened it up, and left that bolt out. So the belt come loose, and when the belt come loose, it ate up the grooves on the inside edge of this belt. You can see the grooves are kind of flattened out on that belt. This is a new belt, and they've got more of a cone to the grooves on the inside edge, so this old belt's just ruined. Now when you put a belt on these, whenever you put these belts on, you don't want to put them all the way to the back or all the way to the front. You want to put them up, one groove up from the back, and it'll center it on all of these pulleys. And you have to make sure that you center these belts on every pulley just like that before you tighten it up. If you do not center this belt up, it'll squeak, it'll slip, and it'll start eating the edge off this belt because it's not going to be pulling straight. And that belt's not going to last very long at all. You're going to be replacing it again. So make sure when you put these belts on these things, center them up in the center of these pulleys just like that before you tighten it up. And that lower belt I showed you on the alternator is the one that you use to loosen up, to take the tension off these belts so you can change them. When you put these lower panels back on, you see it's got a lip here and these two tabs. So these two tabs here go on the outside of the casing. This lip goes on the inside of the casing. And when you put it on, you just hinge it up. And when you hinge it up, you lock in the back, and you kind of have to slam it up on here in order to get it to line up. And hold your tension, then slip your two bolts in. Another common problem with these generators is the exhaust on these things keep coming loose. And I've put these things on with anti-vibration bolts. I've used titanium bolts and everything else, and eventually they loosen up again because of the heat of the exhaust. It melts the rubber in the anti-vibration bolts, and they'll start backing off. the only way that I've found to fix these things is to spot weld that exhaust bracket to the casing. Yeah, and that way it's not going to come loose. And if you ever have to take this extra casing off, you have to unbolt the exhaust with it, and it just the whole exhaust and the casing comes off at the same time. So it doesn't cause a big issue at all. Anyway, I hope somebody's found this helpful. You know, like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to have more videos coming up. Also, I cannot wait for springtime to come, because we're going to be doing some catfishing, and I'm going to show you guys how to catch the big cats in some of these small creeks. Anyway, enjoy.